Hello, I'm Amber Hay. Just kidding. That sounded way cooler in my head. In my head, I sounded like Johnny Cash. Out loud, I sound like a 30-year-old female from Canada. So, hello. Hi. Welcome. If you've never heard of me before, I am Amber Hay. I'm Denny Hay's eldest daughter. And I just really love rodeo history. Usually, I write you guys a bunch of stories. Honestly, the NFR just announced their 2025 stock roster. It confused me for like 30 seconds while I tried to brush up on all of my terms. And they just never released a legend, and I couldn't find a legend online. I was able to figure it out, but I figured if I was confused for any length of time, guaranteed other people were also confused for some length of time. So I figured I would take this opportunity to, instead of writing y'all a story this week, walk through how to make sense of stock rosters. So, without further ado, welcome to my computer. So, stock roster. Very cool, very exciting. I'll have a link in the video so you guys can all also take a look at this. And by the time we are done with this video, if you open it up, you will be able to understand exactly what all of the things mean, which is pretty exciting. But so for right now, the top 4 columns are just like the names of what they all are, and we are going to go through all 4 of those. So over here we have brand, then we have name, delivery, and stock contractor. So I'm going to scroll down here a little bit, and I've highlighted. Ooh, actually, okay, we're going to scroll down just a little bit past first, and we're going to show you what it threw me off. So for 191 Girl Crush, R-E Smith Pro Rodeos, that -E had me for a minute, and I didn't remember what E stood for and couldn't figure out why there was a dash, and was just very confused until I walked myself through a couple of chutes, and now we're going to walk through some chutes together. So, backing it up a little bit, just because this one has quite a few different parts that I wanted to be able to explain, we're going to be working with 3404 Running Barn Boot Barns Night Flight LMF Picket Pro Rodeo for our kind of like first little bit of a walkthrough. So over here in this brand column, we have 3404 Running Bar, which if we then take a look at any of the other Picket Pro Rodeo, all of these are also different brands, which anyone who knows of like a livestock identification brand, that starts to get very confusing, because anytime you think of a livestock identification brand, it's something that you brand a whole herd with to identify that animal is belonging to a specific herd to a person. So for example, I actually pulled it up here. My entire family has a horse brand, and it is a brand on the right thigh of an animal that's Running Bar Lazy Left H. So any horse you see in Alberta, let's preface that, because it's a registered brand in Alberta, which we can get to on the brands here in a second, but any horse in Alberta on the left thigh that has a Running Bar Lazy Left H is known to anyone who looks at that as belonging to one of the multiple Hays. That's how livestock identification brand works. With this brand that they're talking about in the livestock roster, it's actually a unique identifier given to that animal by the PRCA to identify that specific animal. Why is that important? If you've read any of my stories and you've read my story on High Chaparral, you will have heard this story. If you know Dave Appleton, you may have also heard this story. But for those of you who don't know, PRCA Hall of Famer and Australian Dave Appleton once drew Ghost, jumped on, rode Ghost, was thinking the whole time, like, man, this does not feel like Ghost. This was hard. Like, this was at hard 74 points to be able to ride. Ended up getting back onto the chutes, and somebody realized that he had not actually ridden Ghost, but he had ridden the man-eater himself, High Chaparral. So knowing which animal it is actually very important. And usually, if I show you here, so here we have another kind of side-by-side example of a livestock brand versus a stock brand. So on the left, we have Moxa Pro Rodeo's livestock identification brand, which is that WM. And then on the right-hand side, we have Get Smart's stock brand, which is the 242. And you'll see Get Smart's stock brand is actually way up high on his left hip, so that you can actually see that while you're in the chutes and have a quick visual before you throw your saddle on of, cool, that's 242, I know that's Get Smart. So that's your brand column. And then for your name column over here, generally pretty easy. It's just the name of the animal. Where it gets a little bit confusing sometimes, and why I chose this animal in particular, is because sometimes sponsors will sneak in there. So Boot Barn sponsors Night Flight of Picket Pro Rodeo. So Night Flight's full actual name is Boot Barn's Night Flight. You'll see like Boot Barn also sponsors Nightcrawler. So Nightcrawler's full name is Boot Barn's Nightcrawler. Another thing that will happen sometimes is sometimes that stock brand, that unique identifier, will also sneak into the name. Most of those come down to, honestly, like personal style of the announcer. Sometimes, usually with sponsors, the stock contractor will try and make sure that that sponsor is in the name, so the announcers will actually announce them with that sponsor as well. But it doesn't always happen. But whether or not that animal is known as Get Smart, or 242 Get Smart, 242 OLS Tubbs Get Smart, OLS Tubbs Get Smart, all four of those names all identify Get Smart. They're just different ways of putting that information together, and it just comes down to the personal style of that announcer, or how the production team has put it into the Cowboy Channel that day, which is why some rodeos will have different names, different times. It's just a style choice, honestly. It all kind of means the same thing. We're going to skip delivery for a second because I do have a game that we're going to play to explain delivery. And we're going to just pick up the stock contractor column. That is pretty simple, straightforward. That's just the registered name of the stock contractor with the PRCA. So for Boot Barn's Nightcrawler, it's Picket Pro Rodeo. If we go down to Saddle Bronc, where that starts to get super important, is you have two different Volds that have stock contracting companies. So you have Kirsten Vold Rodeo Co., and you also have Wayne Vold Rodeo Co. So pretty simple. That never really changes. They're always going to be known as what their actual stock contractor name is. Yeah. So then we get to the extra super fun column that is kind of all over the place and looks kind of scary when you're not really paying attention to what you're looking at. But we're going to walk through it, and we're going to do super great together. So the first thing to kind of go over are the meanings of the different abbreviations. So your two most common ones you're going to see are your L's and your R's, which stand for left and right, but they don't stand for like the left-hand side of chutes or the right-hand side of chutes. They actually stand for left-hand delivery or right-hand delivery. And what that means is when that animal is actually standing in that chute, when the chute gate opens, that is the direction that that animal is going to turn out of the chute in order to start bucking. So for a left-hand delivery chute, that animal is going to be standing in that chute, and that chute is going to open up on their left-hand side so that when they turn, they're turning out of the chute left. And same with right-hand delivery, it's just going to be standing in that chute. The chute is going to open up on its right side so that it can take a right turn out of that chute. Honestly, kind of once you think about it as like you're the animal standing in that chute and which direction you're turning out, it makes it a little bit easier. But you just want to remember that it's not the direction that that animal turns out of the alley into the chutes, or which side of the chutes it's on. It's strictly which way that animal is going to turn once that gate is opened and they're actually turning from the chute and into the arena. Your front, middle, back is, again, another identifier. Rather than showing which direction that animal is going to turn out of the chutes, this shows which position among the bank of chutes that the animal likes to stand in the best, with front being the furthest from the alley and back being the closest to the alley. And then your middle positions are just the ones in between those that are left in the middle. Your E stands for either, which means that that animal will go either. So sometimes it'll be like an RE, which means it wants to take a right out of the chute and have that right hand delivery, but it doesn't care which set of chutes it stands in among that right hand delivery bank. Sometimes it'll just have an E, which means throw that animal wherever. Chute bosses love these because they don't have to think about anything. So that's kind of your letters and what they actually mean among all of your different delivery column. But then, because that's a lot of information, and I know like I said, I have to kind of walk through and actually be in the chutes, I figured we'd play a little game, and I did up a little fantasy draw of 6 different animals that we'll put into chutes together, just to hammer home that understanding, make sure we all get it. But before we do that, just some other kind of important key terms to know. Obviously, your alley is what that animal walks up, and then uses to turn into the chutes. A gate is here, this guy. And these are actually little guys on rollers that will actually, if they're both opened up, allow that animal to walk through that, from that alley and all the way through that bank of chutes, all the way to that front position. Then you slide that gate behind it, and now it's in chute 1. And then that next animal would walk through, and it can go to chute 2, and you can close it. If, for example, you have an animal that you want to load in this left front and then in the left back, and you want to leave this left middle empty, you can load that first animal in your left front, close that gate, close this gate, and now that animal is going to walk through and just go to this left back position, and this left middle will be open. So some fun learning. And then rolled is just kind of like a slang term. And what that means is if we have an animal standing in chute 3 here, and we want him to move ahead to the second chute, we would open up this gate, and then that animal would step through to chute 2, and just its slang term, what most of the guys will call it, what I've grown up calling it, is just a roll. So yeah, little bit of some cool terms. And then for our fantasy draw, like I said, I've kind of taken the hardest part. All of these 6 animals will actually fit in our 6 different chutes, and it'll look really pretty when it's done. But we can actually now look at these 6 animals, and we actually understand what each of these mean. So we have chosen here for us 73, True Grit, who wants the right front chute position, and he's from Wayne Vold Rodeo Co. We have 101, Evil Intentions. He'll take everything, or either, and he's from Rafter H Rodeo Livestock. We have 612 Falcon Playboy, who wants that right middle position and he's from Mox Up Her Rodeo. 718 Talk and Smack will take anything that's a right hand delivery from Kirsten Bold Rodeo Co. 5403 Right on Cue, he wants left back from Rosser Rodeo. And V40 Ricky Bobby, and he wants left front or left middle from Survey Championship Rodeo. So now if we actually take a look here at our little playground, we're going to start with our right bank, load them up, and then we'll do the left. So if we take a look, our first animal here wants right front. So True Grit, right front, super easy. He goes there. He's in chute 1, he's happy. Our next right wants right middle, so that's Falcon Playboy, 612. Easy, he goes there. Our next right is Talk and Smack. Talk and Smack will go in any of the right chutes. So she is going to go in that last chute left, and now we have our right chutes loaded. Super easy. For our left-hand delivery animals, we have 101 Evil Intentions, who will go anywhere. So we're just going to sit on him for a minute, just because why would we load him in when all of our animals miraculously walk through each other, and we can do it easiest to hardest. So we're going to go, our next left-hand delivery is 5403 Right on Cue, and he wants the left back chute position. So if we grab him, he goes into our left back, which is here. Nice and easy. So now we have V40 Ricky Bobby, who wants left front or left middle. Now, because we get to play and be our best chute bosses, what we're going to do is we're going to throw him in this left middle spot, because that way, if he decides that he's feeling a little bit extra spicy and he wants to roll ahead, he can actually roll into the left front position, which is another one that he likes. And then that chute will be empty as soon as our last animal, Evil Intentions 101, gets bucked out. So if Ricky Bobby's just not feeling left middle and he's deciding to lay down a little bit and, show that he really wants to walk ahead, you then just buck out Evil Intentions, roll V40 Ricky Bobby ahead to that left front, and then Ricky Bobby can buck out of that left front and be super happy. So yeah, that is, we'll go off of all of my screens. That's just really quick, easy, how stock rosters work. If you super like this and you like lessons from me that are super rambly and long and full of probably too much information, let me know. There's quite a few other of these kind of style lessons I can definitely do. So throw a comment, throw a like, send me a message, call me. Just let me know somehow that you like it, and I'll keep doing them. And otherwise, have fun, stay safe, catch my next story, and yeah, we'll see you next time. I have to figure out how to stop recording. Bye, guys.